Hey guys, it's Ranger Lauralee, the interpretive intern at Bastrop in Bastrop State Park. Today I'm joined by Ranger Madeline.
Hi guys.
She's the interpreter here at both parks. And today we are going to be talking about how to read topographic maps and understand elevation change on your trail. So to start us off, we're going to be talking about some of the geographic features and just different keys to understand when looking at topographic map. And then diving in more in depth on elevation and showing you a couple of different maps, both for Bastrop State Park in this one area that we're looking at today, as well as Big Bend National Park. I'll show y'all my topographic map for that. Digging into this map right here, we are currently standing on this road. This is a really good lookout point. This is called Old Road Bed. And as you can see, as Madeline had panned out, it's an undeveloped, not even quite gravel road. It's mostly just the soil that was here with some rocks mixed in intermittently. By looking here, there are these dashed lines, which means an undeveloped roadway. Compared to, if you look over here, you see a solid line, which means a developed roadway, paved roadway. If we pan out this way, you might be able to see out over here is Highway 71, which is obviously very developed. And you can see it on the map out here, Highway 71. So going apart from that, some other key elements in the topo map are waterways. So if you see here, you can see the blue. Water will always be in blue on maps. And you can see here that there are a mixture of dashes, slashes, and dots. So whenever you see that, especially dash, dot, that means intermittent water flow, which means that it's not consistently holding water. So most of our Texas waterways are like this, except for our larger rivers. And we don't have any larger rivers in this small area right here. Now, another key feature is this red line right here. You see that it also has a mixture of longer and shorter dashes, and that means that that is a trail. So if we look out here in this area, there is the purple trail coming out this way, and then it loops out and cuts up to the road. And you'll be able to see that because right here is about probably where we're standing, and as you go up further on this old road bed, excuse me, the trail crosses right here. Most maps will have some sort of compass rose. This one's just a very basic one that we made for you. The N stands for north. That's where the arrow is pointing, is north on this map. So you take your compass right here, and you put the red with the dot in between the two lines, and these are glow in the dark lines, so if you're in the dark you'd be able to see them. And right in between there is north, so pointing out that way is north. And something that you could find on this map, for instance, is if you were to lay it flat like this and have north approximately lined up with the compass rose. So you're seeing that as you move your compass out this way and looking down through where you have the roadbed, that's wherever north would be heading. So right now we are probably, I'd say, about in here somewhere, and out this way, looking out on the horizon, we see that building, and that's approximately north from us. So looking on the map, let's see, is there something there? Yeah, there's this blue dot right there, and that is the water tower. So for reference, whenever you're looking at a topo map and trying to figure out where you are, not only to understand all of the different keys on a map, but to pay attention to those keys and be able to point out where you are based on where those keys are on the map and where you're at. Another really important thing when figuring out where is that feature that you're looking at is elevation, and being able to read on a map what that is and where it's at. And you see there are these faint yellow lines, and those are called contour lines. And what contour lines do is they show in that area what the elevation is. So I believe this map is showing 10 feet of elevation change. Yep. And usually the map will show on the very bottom what the contour intervals are. So that's the distance between each of the lines. And so if you can see here, this says 570, so that means 570 feet. And this right here is 560 feet. So there's a 10-foot difference. And each line going out from there is going down. How do you know that? Because right here you see that there's a circle. So that means that's the top of that area. So that's, if you could imagine like the peak or the plateau. Whenever you see a circle like that, that's what that indicates. So going down from there, the lines out from there mean that it's going down in elevation, downhill. Now, reverse, going up from there, going uphill as you go up toward that circle. Something to keep in mind is that this isn't for a lot of areas in Texas. In like Bastrop State Park in general, there aren't too many peaks or circular points like I'm showing here. But if you were to go to, let's say, Colorado or somewhere along the Rockies, there would be a lot of these points. So making sure that you are seeing if they're close together, and not just assuming that because the lines are coming out from that top point that the area around it isn't going to start rising for another top point. So just paying attention to where all of those peaks are so you're getting an accurate judgment of elevation. So when analyzing where you're at and also wanting to read elevation to prepare for your trip, it's really good to know if you're going to be going, let's say, along this trail, being able to count. Okay, so that's 10 feet difference right there. And as you're going along, you're going another 10 feet difference, and just charting as you go along what the elevation change is up and down. Now this trail, from what I told y'all so far, do you feel that this is changing that much in elevation or staying about level? I would say that this is probably about level. This is a good, if you look down here at the key, this much is about 0.4 miles. So, just estimating, of course, not exact. This is probably about a mile, probably a little bit more. So if you're only changing, a couple of intervals over that time, that's not going to be that much elevation change. Now, if you turn over here to this area, so we're seeing that that would be close to the water tower and this other shape right here. So that is the overlook shelter that was built by the CCC back in the 30s. And that could be another marker for you. It's a little bit harder to see than the water tower, so that's why we've been talking about the water tower a little bit more. But going back to elevation change, in that area where that scenic overlook is, you see that the contour intervals are a lot closer together. And what do you think that means?
More elevation change quicker.
Exactly. So this is in this little point right here, it's 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet. So whenever they're closer together, you're knowing that you're going to have to prepare for either ascending or descending a lot faster than, let's say, out here in this other example where it's a lot more gradual elevation change. Finding areas where you'll be able to have something similar to whatever you'll be experiencing is important. And going back to the intermittent streams, it's really important to know if they are solid flowing or not being intermittent, because you want to know if you'll be able to rely on this water or not. I had a water filtration video, which, you know, all of those tools in there, are you going to bring with you if there's no water where you're going? Probably not. But if you know there's going to be water wherever you're going, making sure that you prepare adequately to be able to filter and purify that water, or else just packing all the water you need for the trip. So it means a lot for your packing and your preparing, as well as just safety in general. A lot of times in areas where there are a lot larger rivers, it's really important to know they can impact your ability to cross a trail. I know some places, especially like the northern United States along the Canadian border, even some parts of Colorado, definitely up in Alaska, these huge rivers that flow often will go through a trail and keep you from being able to go. So knowing, is it intermittent where most likely there's not going to be very much water, if at all? Or is it a river that's solid that you're going to have to adjust your trip around? My Big Bend National Park map. So I've used this on the Outer Mountain Loop Trail and the South Rim Trail, both some backing trails in Big Bend. These are pretty large, so especially if you want to carry something lighter, going on to a website like MyTopo, where the United States Geographical Survey has maps already prepared for you that you can download, would probably be a good idea. But I find these really useful whenever you are hiking a lot, and you know you'll be coming back to the place potentially. This is the Big Bend National Park map. It's put out by National Geographic. That's the one who made this. And coming over to the legend, this will help you understand a lot that's on the map. And talking specifically to your elevation, it'll say contour interval, and this one's 50 feet. So the small maps that we had been looking at before were 10. These are 50, because it's a lot larger of a map. In a place like Big Bend, there's a lot more elevation change, and there's a lot more elevation than like out here. The top point that I saw on our map was maybe 600 feet here in the park, but out here, the highest point is Emery Peak at just under 8,000 feet. Very different than the 600 feet elevation here in Bastrop State Park. As it says here, 1 inch is 0.4 miles. So each of these at the top and along the side are an inch. So they're all 0.4 miles. In addition to that, like I was talking about on the other maps, you can see the different roadways and how they're marked. So on here, they have 4-wheel drive road and high clearance road, which are kind of like how we had marked the road that we're currently on right now. And you can see there are difference between the primitive trail and the hiking trail. That's different here. So we're panning over. Let's say we were doing the Outer Mountain Loop right here. So you can see that this trail out here, it's like a nice light gray, it's pretty small, is different compared to these trails out here, which are black and a lot thicker. These are primitive trails, and these are hiking trails. So in the basin, this area is a lot better maintained, more trafficked. As you can see, there are designated camping spots. You have to book these once you get to the park. Whereas out here, you don't see any camping spots. That's because this is primitive camping. You can set up pretty much anywhere along the trail, as long as you let the rangers know approximately where you'll be on the trail. And we'll actually show you in another video kind of what the different primitive campsites look like, reserved ones. I don't know if we'll be finding any that you can just set up. I don't think we have that in state parks, but in national parks they do.
State parks are all, they have designated camping areas on the trail.
Let's see. Let's look just right here, nice and easy. So here's the Dodson Trail, part of the Outer Mountain Loop. And as you go along, you see this line 4250, so 4,250 feet. And each line going up from there, which you can see because up right here is a circle. So that would be a peak or a high area. And you're going up in elevation. So 4,250 plus 50, 4,300 plus 50, 4,350 plus 50, so on and so forth as you go up. And what's nice about these maps right here is the bolded or a lot thicker line for contour is one that is giving you elevation. So it's actually putting the numbers on there compared to these smaller lines in between. This trail where it's exactly put is going to be more gradual. Now if the trail were to start going up this way, you're going to be climbing a lot. So this is the desert floor all out here. And then as you go along, this is Juniper Canyon, you're actually climbing through the canyon and starting to come up to the basin. This is Big Bend's Basin. So you're climbing up as you go along, and you see that the trail is following these contour lines. So pretty much every probably 0.1 miles, you are going to be climbing a good bit. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That's 300 feet just in this little bit right here. So paying attention to that, how your trail is lining up with the contour lines. And as you get over here, you can see that the trail starts to get really tiny, it looks like. Now that doesn't mean that that is barely anything right there. That means that's switchbacks cutting back and forth, because this is higher elevation change, ascent or descent. And so keeping that in mind, when you see little bits like that, that means that there are switchbacks there. And just to give you kind of a visual of a switchback, because I know people are like, what is that? Just imagine as you're going up a trail, you're starting here, you're climbing up, and then the trail turns about 180 degrees, and then you're climbing up this way, and then you're climbing and climbing. So that's where it gets the switchback term, because you're going up and then you're switching back, it seems, but climbing up the other way. Very fun. That's when you learn who your true friends are. And just another thing that you see a lot on backcountry trails. There are all kinds of maps out there. So there's, the National Geographic, My Topo maps, which I mentioned earlier, and I'll put a link in the content for you so you can check that out. And state parks and other local areas usually include their own maps. So make sure you get one before you go out for your trip, especially your actual backpacking trip, very important. And there's one more thing when it comes to maps that I wanted to mention. There's this really cool app called AllTrails that doesn't have specifically topographic maps in it, but you're able to, for like a small fee per month, download map layers to your phone. So without signal, you can still use the GPS on your phone and be able to trace where you're going. And in just a second, I'll be showing y'all and walking y'all through some of that. The free version mostly just to show you how to get started, and then there's that paid version with the download layers. So if you don't want to learn a topographic map just yet, want something a little easier, that's another option for navigation for you. So you open it up. Now I already have a profile. You'll be creating a profile. And let's say we're here in Bastrop. We found this trail that we want to do. And you can view how much feet in elevation it is, how long it is. You could even record if you're near the trail, which the trail is right here. But let's say we were there, we would have our little blue location on it, and we could start recording. It'll start giving us our time and then planned elevation for the trip. You can even search for a place. So see Aspen, Colorado. You can click on the trail, you can like it, save it for later. And say we click on a trail and save it so that it's downloaded to our phone. You can click download map layers. You download. Downloading map layers costs money, but there's plenty that you can do with the free version, which is everything that I've shown you before downloading and after. So this is great just if you're starting off, you're able to find and locate wherever you are, find a park, find a different area to be able to practice. I created a list of state parks where you can backpack that have 7 or more miles where you can practice. And then I also included a list of areas where you can backpack and camp. So have the full experience, not just going out and backpacking. So take a look at that. I do recommend waiting till probably fall to start a backpacking trek. This guy with the base weight all right here, add on water and everything else, you're looking around 40 pounds sometimes, and that's a lot to be carrying in the summer, not to mention starting out and getting used to exerting yourself that much. So let us know if you end up planning a trip at one of these parks. That concludes this Backpacking 101 video about how to read topographic maps and elevation change. In the very beginning, we talked about the small topographic map around Old Roadbed in Bastrop State Park. And in there, we talked about geographic features, the compass, contour lines, and elevation change. And then the latter part of the video, we brought out the large topographic map for Big Bend National Park, where we talked about the legend and primitive campsites and primitive camp zones. And that's it for today. Thank y'all for watching. Please include any questions you have below.